Welcome back to Economic Outlook. On Wednesday, April 21st, General Motors released a new advertising campaign featuring CEO Ed Whitacre stating that the company had repaid $8.1 billion in government loans. Let's take a look at the advertisement and see exactly what Mr. Whitacre had to say.
I'm Ed Whitacre from General Motors. A lot of Americans didn't agree with giving GM a second chance. Quite frankly, I can respect that. We want to make this a company all Americans can be proud of again. That's why I'm here to announce we have repaid our government loan in full with interest, 5 years ahead of the original schedule. But there's still more to do. Our goal is to exceed every expectation you've set for us. We're putting people back to work, designing, building, and selling the best cars and trucks in the world. With our 100,000-mile, 5-year powertrain warranty to guarantee the quality and the unmatched life-saving technology of OnStar to help keep you safe. From new energy solutions to the designs of tomorrow, we invite you to take a look at the new GM.
Unfortunately, the new General Motors is eerily similar to the old General Motors. In this campaign, Mr. Whitacre and GM deliberately mislead the public about General Motors' financial status. First of all, Mr. Whitacre fails to mention that General Motors is still 70% owned by the governments of the United States and Canada. Beginning in 2008, GM received a total of $61.5 billion in bailout funds from the governments of the US and Canada. And during the company's bankruptcy, the vast majority of this bridge loan was actually converted to equity. So today, the United States government owns a 61% stake in the company from converting $45.3 billion to equity, and the Canadian government holds a 12% position from converting $8.1 billion in loans. The size of the ownership stakes dwarf the loan balance that Mr. Whitacre is so proud to have repaid. For General Motors to fully repay its debts, it must raise enough money in a stock offering to recoup the government's $54.3 billion capital investment remaining. This means that General Motors would have to have an initial valuation of almost $73 billion, and for the government to earn a 5% profit on the investment, the market capitalization would actually have to be around $76 billion. Before entering bankruptcy, General Motors achieved its highest market capitalization in nominal dollars in 2000, at $52 billion. Today, newly profitable Ford Motor Company has a market cap of around $48 billion, and Toyota's market cap is near $121 billion. So a stock offering from General Motors would need to come in somewhere between those two figures for the US and Canada to exit their positions profitably. So the question is this valuation likely to occur? Probably not. General Motors had almost $95 billion in debt erased in its bankruptcy proceeding, but still lost $3.9 billion in the fourth quarter of 2009 and believes it may be profitable in 2010. And I stress that's a direct quote. The company feels that it may be profitable. In addition, and probably more importantly, its pension plan remains underfunded by just a staggering $27 billion. Given these poor numbers, General Motors would need a stock offering with a valuation that places them on par with companies like McDonald's, Home Depot, and Philip Morris. Even with other automakers showing signs of vulnerability in the United States, this level of initial valuation is unlikely. General Motors' triumphant advertising ignores these glaring difficulties. It gives the viewer the impression that the company has paid its debts, when in reality it's still an unprofitable, government-owned entity. Despite these flaws, the most egregious untruth in Mr. Whitacre's speech is actually his characterization of the loan repayment itself. General Motors actually used other TARP funds to repay its loan. Jamie Dupree with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution broke this story after bailout watchdog Neil Barofsky met with the Senate Finance Committee. During the meeting on Tuesday, April 20th, Mr. Barofsky responded to questions from Senators Tom Carper and Chuck Grassley. He said, It's good news in that they're reducing their debt, but they're doing it by taking other available TARP money. The way that payment is going to be made is by drawing down on an equity facility of other TARP money. Mr. Borofsky nodded in agreement when Senator Carper asked if the repayment was like taking money out of one pocket and putting it into another. The conversation continued. Mr. Carper asked, "When do you think we'll have really good news from General Motors?" Mr. Borofsky responded, "I don't have a crystal ball on that, Senator." Senator Carper concluded by saying, "The assumption is that, over time, hopefully the value of the stock will appreciate." Mr. Borofsky's conversation reveals the truth about General Motors' loan repayment. CEO Ed Whitacre wants the public to believe that General Motors repaid the loan using the company's earnings. However, it simply used another TARP equity facility. Senator Grassley characterized the maneuver as nothing but an elaborate TARP money shuffle. Other observers have used the analogy of taking one credit card to pay off another. No matter how you look at the problem, General Motors was intentionally deceitful in its advertisement. It wanted the public to believe the company was in a superior financial position, when in fact, it's still relying on TARP money and posting losses. Amazingly, General Motors continues to defend their claim, even after the truth about using TARP money came to light. GM spokesman Greg Martin stated, "I think any way you look at it, that we're giving loans back with interest before we had to should be taken as a positive sign." General Motors and CEO Ed Whitacre have produced a duplicitous public relations campaign to intentionally mislead the public. General Motors is not profitable, is still a government-owned entity, and has shown few signs of the financial strength necessary to repay its debts to United States and Canadian taxpayers. Mr. Whitacre's brazen lies of omission are intended to instill a false sense of confidence in the public. The commercial invites us to look at the new General Motors, and Mr. Whitacre promises that the company will try to exceed our every expectation. However, I agree more with something Mr. Whitacre said at the beginning of the ad. A lot of Americans didn't agree with giving General Motors a second chance. Quite frankly, I can respect that. Well, you're right, Mr. Whitacre. I did not want to give General Motors a second chance. Now, your deliberate falsehoods and manipulation of public money have confirmed my feelings. I am completely confident that General Motors will continue to fail to meet my expectations, be they for profitability or honesty and integrity in your communications with the public. I hope you enjoyed this entry here at Economic Outlook, and as always, be sure to check out my website at www.econoutlook.com for more information, and I'll be back in a few days with another look at a CEO who decided to appear in his own commercial. You won't want to miss this. I'll see you in a few days, and as always, thank you for watching.